It's automation, Jim, but not as we know it.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not exactly as we would normally know it.
Mr. Sulu said our enterprise license was really fast.
Hi, everybody. In this session, we're going to explore the WorX Manual Testing Accelerator plugin for SpiraTest. I'm Aaron Athfield. I'm the Technical Director of Ceefa Software in Wellington, New Zealand. If you have any questions during this session or afterwards, then please use the chat window for this session. Here's our agenda. We're going to look at the different pieces that fit together on the desktop. I'm going to show you where the magic switch is in SpiraTest that makes all this possible. And then I'm going to roll my sleeves up and we're going to do some rapid test authoring, followed by some rapid test execution, including rapid data fetching and rapid data input 3 ways. Did I say rapid? Good. We're going to be busier than a kitten with 2 tails. So, tray tables away, grab a box of tissues because this could make your eyes water. WorX is a Windows desktop application, so it lives outside the web browser, and it can be started in 4 different modes. When SpiraTest launches WorX in record mode, WorX captures our interaction with the system under test and writes that into Word or Excel. WorX then communicates with SpiraTest and a new test case is created. And this is like every other test case in SpiraTest except for one thing. The test steps remain in Word or Excel out on the file system, and SpiraTest simply points to the location of those steps. Each time the test case is executed, a copy of the Word or Excel document is created, and these become the new test runs in SpiraTest, each with its own pointer to the steps for that test run. Test cases can be updated on the fly during execution, with those updates carried forward, so our maintenance work is done simultaneously. Fresh data can be fetched from CSV or XLS files to populate the test case with each new execution, and WorX offers us a number of rapid data input features to make life super easy. In SpiraTest, the integration with WorX is switched on independently for each product, and you can find this in the administration panel under Testing Settings. Down the bottom, you'll find WorX Integration, and when we switch this on, a couple of things suddenly appear in SpiraTest. If we click on the Artifacts drop-down and select Test Cases, we're taken to the Test Cases list view for the product. And here you can see a WorX drop-down, and when we open it, you can see Record and Design links, and we'll close that. And a WorX column on the right, with Open, Review, and Execute links for each test case in the view. I'm also choosing to display 2 extra columns which become available when the integration is enabled. The WorX file path shows me the physical location of the document which holds the test steps. And the WorX table or worksheet identifies which table in Word or sheet in Excel actually hold those steps. And these are details that SpiraTest and WorX share with each other. So let's do some high-speed authoring, starting right here in SpiraTest. I open the WorX drop-down and I click Record. SpiraTest is minimized and WorX starts up in record mode. For this demo, we're authoring into a Word document, so WorX has already raced off and prepared a new test run for us in Word and popped that down on the taskbar. We'll take a look at that in a second. The first thing you'll notice is that as I move the mouse, some text fades in and out, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes also. Looking at the WorX interface, you can see 2 open windows and 1 closed window, which I can tap to open and click to close at any time. These correspond to columns in the test case down on the taskbar, and we can have as many columns in our test cases as we like, and as many windows up here in WorX that display only the columns we choose, so there's tons of flexibility. At any time, we can enter text messages into any of these windows to add instructions or record observations. And we're going to start by writing a note to the person who will run this test, say 3 weeks from now. So using the correct mouse and keyboard combination, I can enter what's known as a quick win or WorX instant note. Start the app. And when I press enter, that note gets kind of tweeted down to the corresponding cell in the test case down there on the taskbar. And the quickest way to get to that is to right-click above the window here on the title bar. WorX is minimized, the test case is maximized, and we're taken to that exact row and column in the test case. So this is the test case template for this particular project. If I scroll up to the top, you can see that this has a table that might have some details about the test case. You might have one of these, or several of these, or you might not have any of these. Completely up to you. This will be your own template, and so it might have your company logo and colors or other stuff, and WorX will ignore all of that. Scrolling down, WorX only cares about this blue table, which we call the execution table. This is the only thing that WorX will lock onto and furnish as it captures our interaction with the system under test. When we're visiting a test case, we can change anything, anywhere in the document. We're not restricted to editing only the cell that we landed on. So we've got the kind of authoring freedom in Word that we would usually expect, even in the middle of a recording session like this. I'm going to extend this note a little to read application. And when I restore WorX from the taskbar, the test case is minimized, WorX is restored, and the windows in WorX are refreshed to show us the latest content in the test case. So let's do this. Let's start the application. WorX detects that a new window has taken foreground position on the desktop. It's taken a snapshot of the window, extracted the text from the window title bar, and inserted a customizable comment into the test case cell. You can pop out these cells to view the images at full size just by tapping the window title. And from here, you can zoom in and out further using Control+, Control-, Control-0 to go back to 100%, and Escape to close. Where does this image live? In the corresponding cell in the test case down on the taskbar. And we get to that by right-clicking above the window. And you can see that WorX has resized that perfectly to fit within the column. One click on WorX, and we're back at the WorX interface. You realize quite quickly when you're using WorX that a number of our actions are not actually worth describing in the test case. For instance, our first action here where we click on this drop-down to open it. Describing this would not add any value to the person running this 3 weeks from now. So with WorX, we're able to simply hold the Control key down to temporarily disable recording. And as long as I'm holding that key down, WorX will ignore everything that I do. So I click to open the drop-down, and then I release the control to enable recording again. When I choose a value now from the drop-down, WorX records that click. It takes a picture of the area where I clicked, marks the location where the click occurred, and writes a comment which happens to match the text at the mouse tip. Positioning the cursor into the next field is also not worth describing. So I hold the Control key, I click into the field, and I release the Control key. Easy. Now, we're free to use the keyboard without our keystrokes being captured in case we make mistakes. So I'm going to enter Aaron C. Athfield. And then I describe my data input by simply highlighting the fields that I choose, and in the order that I choose, and only the characters that I choose. So I'm going to mouse down, swipe left, and release. WorX takes a shot of the area, marks the mouse down position, and inserts a customizable comment which includes just the characters I selected. I'll do the same with the C, and again with the surname, and this time I'll double click to highlight the whole word. Whatever action results in highlighting the characters you want. We'll throw away our click on the drop-down and capture our selection. And throw away and capture. And throw away and capture and throw away. me@gmail.com. A bunch of 1s and 2s and 3s. And I'll describe that just by highlighting the text. Email address, home phone, mobile, work phone. Now let's talk about what's happening at the mouse tip here. This is called the data wand, and it's a big part of the recording experience in WorX. The text is called the spell, and we're able to switch different spells in and out of the data wand to do different things. Firstly, the data wand fades in when I move the mouse to remind me what the current spell is, and it disappears when I stop moving the mouse so that the spell doesn't appear in the snapshots of the clicks that we perform. To switch spells, we tap the Control key, and a spell selection window appears with a customizable list of spells. You can set up as many of these as you like and put them in any order. Each spell gets a name on the left and a superpower on the right. And you can see the two spells that we've been using so far. The select this spell doesn't have a superpower. So this is simply a comment that accompanies any click that we perform. The other spell we've used has an extract text superpower. And the comment on the left gets inserted into the test case, and it will include just the characters that we highlight. The spell that I'm actually running is the one at the top, and this is a super spell, and it's activated by default. It automatically switches in other spells depending on what's going on at the mouse tip. It senses whether the mouse is hovering over a text field, and if it is, it will switch in the extract text spell. And if it's not, then it will switch back to the comment spell that we've nominated in the project options. So let's look at how that works. I'll hold down a special key that makes the wand nice and bright. And you can see that when we're over non-text objects, our non-text comment spell is switched in. But when we move over a text field, our extract text spell is automatically switched in to make life easy for us. It means we don't have to go backwards and forward, manually switching in and out the different spells as we work. So this is a powerful feature. You can see the switching happening as I slide over the various fields here. Let's throw away our final drop-down click and capture our data selection and capture our button click, and WorX records the arrival of the address details screen. 18 St. Ronan's Avenue, Waterloo, Wellington, 5011. And let's describe all of that. Now, I'm describing each field separately because it makes sense in this test case where someone 3 weeks from now will need to re-enter that data. By doing this now, they can simply copy and paste the text into the system under test each time they execute. But there might be occasions where it would be fine to just describe all of the fields in a single hit. Perhaps we're a business analyst and we're quickly describing a use case for a user guide or a presentation, or for a business user who won't actually do the data entry. So we have a spell for this. If we tap the Control key, you can see a screen region spell, which is named Enter All of This. And if I select this, I can draw a rectangle like this, and that will get inserted into the test case along with the comment. Let's click Next, and WorX captures the arrival of the email options screen. Now, checkboxes and radio buttons are interesting because they change state when we operate them. When I click on this first checkbox, WorX records accurately that I clicked on an empty checkbox. And you can see in the snapshot exactly where I clicked and that the checkbox was unchecked when I clicked it. This could be confusing though for someone 3 weeks from now, where the comment reads, select this, but the image has the checkbox unselected, if you like. If we look at the system under test, of course there is now a tick in the box, and so it would be less ambiguous if we were able to take a snapshot after the tick had been drawn. We have a spell for this. In fact, we have a couple of options to handle this. I'll tap the Control key to open our spell selection window, and you can see a delayed snapshot spell. And what this does is a short pause after we operate the mouse to give the application time to draw the tick in the box. The pause duration is customizable, but out of the box it's set to 100 milliseconds. When I select this spell and click a different checkbox, you can see that the tick now appears in the snapshot. The other method is to switch back to our automatic super spell. So I'll tap the Control key and reselect our automatic super spell. When the super spell is active, if I perform a click and deliberately delay my mouse up, then WorX will deliberately delay its snapshot. by automatically switching in the delayed snapshot spell after a certain amount of time. Again, the delay trigger is customizable, but out of the box, this is set to 500 milliseconds. So let's click a new checkbox and deliberately delay our mouse up. There. You can see the delayed snapshot spell got switched in, and our snapshot is taken when I mouse up. This is another feature that allows us to concentrate on the test without needing to continuously switch spells in and out during recording. We throw away our clip that opens the drop-down, we capture our data selection, click the next button, and WorX records the arrival of the login details screen. You get the picture. Let's take a look at the test case we've built. By right-clicking above any window, we're taken to that cell. And as I scroll up, look at all the authoring work that I haven't needed to do. This puts time and therefore money in my pocket. Depending on the size of the image relative to the size of the test case cell, especially when recording into those tiny Excel cells, we might be faced with situations where the images are just too small to be useful at that size. Let me shrink this image right down to show you what I mean. So another really handy feature in WorX is that when we visit the test case like this, we can zoom into any image by simply selecting it and tapping the control key, which then presents that image at 100% of its original size. And from here, we can zoom in and out further as usual and escape when we're done. Really nice thing to have that even Word or Excel don't offer us. When we're happy with our test case, we restore WorX. We exit. Give the test case a name. I'll use the time on the clock. And save results. WorX and SpiraTest talk to each other. And our new test case appears in SpiraTest. Looking at our new test case record, you can see the physical location of the file that holds the test steps and the table within that document where they can be found. And so we're one click away from these test steps at any moment. And all we need to do is click the open link here on the right, and WorX will spring to life and ask Word to present those test steps to us. Easy. And we close. So let's say it's now 3 weeks later. It's execution time. And of course, we can execute the test case that we just authored. All I need to do is click the execute link on the right here. SpiraTest is minimized, and it launches WorX in execute mode. WorX takes a copy of that original test case and creates a new test run down on the taskbar, all ready to go. WorX then guides us step by step through the execution, where, as a human, we perform the listed actions and we verify the expected results, passing or failing each step as we go. So you can see here in the description window that WorX tells me to start the application. So I start the application. In the expected result window, we're told that the personal details screen will appear. But the image is one of those tiny ones that would usually be of no value. In WorX, it's easy. We simply tap the title bar above the expected result window, and the image is displayed at 100% of its original size. We check the system under test, close the zoom window, and we click pass for step 1 to confirm the result. WorX then navigates to step 2, where the first batch of input data is described. Let me resize the WorX interface so that we can see more of this cell. Our first instruction is to select Mrs. in the title drop-down. So I select Mrs. and we move to the next field. And this is where we get the payback from extracting the text from fields during recording. It means I can simply double-click the first name to highlight, Control-C to copy to the clipboard, and then Control-V to paste this into the sample app. For the middle initial, I can just type the letter C. And with the surname, I double-click to highlight, Control-C to copy, and Control-V to paste. You get the picture. Let's pretend that we've done all the data entry and all the verifications and everything passed. I'll close the sample app to get that off screen. For this demo, I'm going to hold down the Control key while I click pass, and this will pass all of the test steps in a single action. In the Save Results window, I click Save Results. And WorX now talks to SpiraTest, and together they create and pass our new test run. I call that everyday execution at everyday speed, with WorX speeding things up a little bit by doing some of the admin tasks for us in the background. To get to rapid test execution, we introduce something called a data grid. And a data grid is a special kind of table. Let me show you what I mean. I click the Open link on the right here to get to the test steps in Word and scroll down a little. You can see in step 2 that our interaction with each field is described with text and also backed up with an image. This makes the instructions uniform, granular, and unambiguous. With a data grid, we convert this detail into a more condensed format using a table. And you would do this for test cases that you want to run at high speed. So if I create some blank lines and type enter all of this, and then I insert a table, let's say 2 columns by 4 rows high, then I can start to move the data input detail into the table. So I type title and Mrs., which is just as readable as the text and picture format, and then I delete the picture and the text, which is no longer needed. I type first name, then I can simply highlight the text by double-clicking and then drag that to the new table cell. And then I can delete that picture and text also. For middle initial, I will just type C and then delete the picture and text. And we'll do one more, surname. And I highlight and drag the surname to the table and delete the picture and text. So again, imagine that we've gone through this entire test case just once and converted the data input for each screen into a table, which is no less readable but more condensed. What would that look like? Well, I just happen to have one of those prepared. Let's close this test case and I click Don't Save. In SpiraTest, you can see that I have another test case here already called Data-Driven Test Case, where all the fields are in table format. Let's take a look. I click Open, and the test steps appear. Let's scroll down a little. So the test case is just the same. Start the WorX sample application, personal details screen will appear. If I scroll down a little more, you can see a data grid, which at first glance looks a bit more complicated than the table we just created. But it's not really. Let me hide the third column with a Control X and the first 5 rows with a Control X. And you can see it's pretty much the same, except here we have a couple of extra rows for the buttons on screen. Now, the thing that turns a standard table like this into a high-speed data grid are those structural rows that live at the top. And let me press Control Z to restore those. When WorX detects these at runtime, the doorway to rapid execution opens right up. One of the most important rows is this data source row. And if WorX sees a data source, then on execution startup, WorX will race off to that file to fetch fresh data and populate the data grid for us at lightning speed. It will select a new record from the data source and then match the field names here in the data grid with the column headers in the data source. So all that hard work is just done for us automatically. Let me highlight this data source, then Control C to copy that to the clipboard and click the Windows Start button and Control V to paste and press Enter. And we can see that this is a standard CSV file with a header row and 26 data records A to Z. And these are like customer records where each record has all the data we need to populate all 5 screens in the sample app. There are fields here for the personal details screen and other fields here for the address details screen and fields for which emails we would like to receive, etc. Let me close this. I'll press Control Z again to restore the third column, but we'll talk about this when we get to it in a few minutes. If we scroll down, you can see that we have a data grid for each step in the test case with all the fields and all the data needed for that particular screen in the sample app. So let me close this test case and let's click Execute. SpiraTest is minimized, WorX starts up, scans the test case to see if there are any data grids, and if there are, it checks the data source property and races off to match all the fields in the data grid with the columns in the data source, and populates all those grids with fresh values. And we're taken to step 1. Okay, so I follow the first instruction to start the sample application. I verify that the personal details screen appears, and I pass step 1. Here in step 2, we can see the data grid fully populated with values. WorX has detected that this table has the structural rows that qualify it as a data grid, and so a data grid icon appears in the title bar above this window. And when I click this, that data grid pops out of the Word document into a special window, and this is where the fun really begins. The field in red is already in the clipboard as a courtesy because the selected field Send to Clipboard checkbox is checked. So all I need to do is to position the mouse cursor in the corresponding field in the sample application, and I paste in the value with Control-V. WorX detects the Control-V because Detect Control-V field entry is also checked. WorX is also advanced to the next row in the data grid because on field entry, Advanced Data Grid Row is checked. And so now the first name field is in the clipboard, and all I need to do is paste the first name, paste the initials, and WorX will lock and load the clipboard with the next field for me automatically. And this is called the semi-automatic clipboard, and it's a great way to get data entered. We also have random access to the fields in the data grid, so I can click on, say, the email address, and instantly that field gets sent to the clipboard. And so I'll place the cursor in the email field in the sample application and simply paste. Home phone, paste. Mobile, paste. You get the picture. Now, if your application can accept high-speed keyboard entry, then you can simply place the data grid fields in the same order as they appear on screen and do some really fast input. Let me clear the fields on screen by tapping the application banner here at the top. I choose my starting field in the data grid, place the cursor in the corresponding field in the sample application, which is my responsibility, and click the Data Burst button in 3, 2, 1, go. WorX processes all the rows in the data grid and then rolls around to the top again. And in this case, the sample application has advanced to the next screen because WorX also pressed the next button as the last step. I'll click the back button in the sample application and you can see all the populated fields. Some applications can take high-speed data input like this, and some can't. It all depends on your app. But when circumstances are right, this is a super fast way to get through a lot of data entry without keyboard errors. Now, the most popular and versatile data entry feature is actually the data wand. And you've seen the record mode data wand with the spells fading in and out, but this is the execution mode data wand. Let me tap the banner at the top again to clear the fields, and I'll select the first name field in the data grid. And I'll switch off the Send to Clipboard and switch on the Send to Data wand. This sends the field title and input value to the data wand. And when the data wand is green like this, then it means WorX has her hands over the keyboard ready to type the input value as soon as we select a field. So all we need to do is tap the field that should receive those keystrokes, and WorX will enter the data for us. So I click the first name field in the sample app. WorX enters the data, then locks and loads the next field. And so now the middle initial is ready to go. I tap the initial field, and WorX does the data entry for me. As usual, I have random access in the data grid. So I click the email address field. I then tap the email address field in the sample app. Same with the home phone and mobile number. Easy. If I select the date of birth day field in the data grid, the data wand goes red and will not fire no matter how many times I click. And this is because I've placed a CR code in the third column of the grid. This instructs WorX to load the field into the data wand, but not to use the keyboard because the field might not be able to accept keyboard input. Drop-down controls are often like this, where they allow you to choose a value from a preset list, but no typing. In these circumstances, the CR code and the red data wand become an instruction to me as the WorX user to operate that control personally, and then tap the control key when I'm done. The CR means controlled release. And it's necessary because WorX has no idea how many clicks might be needed to select the required value from the drop-down. With the date of birth day field here, for instance, I need to perform one click to open the drop-down, another click to scroll to the value I'm looking for, and then a third click to select the required value. And then, when I tap the control key, WorX advances to the next row in the data grid. So I've placed these CR codes beside all of the drop-down fields that I need to operate personally. The final row in the data grid operates the next button. When I select this row, the data wand goes orange. The button can't accept characters, so it can't be green. It doesn't need multiple clicks, so it can't be red. It only requires one click. And so I've placed a special OC code beside this field to instruct WorX to let me perform one click of the mouse before moving on. Let me show you the data wand in action using all of the magic switches. I'll check Launch Automatically, which instructs WorX to launch these data grids out of the main interface whenever it detects them. I'll check Start Minimized if wand active, which will declutter the screen. I'll check Exit after last row is processed rather than have WorX scroll back up to the top of the grid. And I'll check Draw Attention after exit to focus my attention on the next task, since visually so much will be going on. Let's close the data grid, close the sample application, position WorX back at the first step in the test case, and do some rapid data input. You ready? Okay. So I'll start the sample application. Personal details screen will appear. I'm happy with that, so I'll pass step 1. WorX navigates to step 2, detects the data grid, launches it automatically, and minimizes it, since the data wand is active, exactly as required. And so we're guided like a missile now through the rows of the data grid, and the first field has made the data wand go red, meaning it's my action to perform. I select the correct title from the drop-down and tap the control key to release through to the next field. Now the wand is green. WorX is ready to do some typing for me. I tap the first name field and middle initial and surname, and now the data wand goes red again. It's my turn. I select the date of birth day and tap the control key to release. I select the date of birth month and tap the control key to release. I select the date of birth year and tap the control key to release. The data wand is green. I tap the email field, home phone, mobile, work phone, and this red one is mine. How did you hear about us? I make my selection and tap the control key. And now the wand goes orange, which gives me one click before moving on. Remember, this is also the final row in the grid, and we've instructed WorX to exit the grid after the final row, return to the main interface, and draw our attention to the thing we need to focus on next. I click the next button. WorX springs back to life and draws my attention to the expected result window with a flash of red. This is because we've worked through the details in the description window already, and so all we need to do is verify the expected result. I'm happy that the address details screen has appeared, so I'll pass step 2. WorX clearly detects the data grid in step 3, launches it, minimizes it, and loads the first row. I tap the street number, unit, street name, suburb, city, postcode, and I click the next button. We're drawn again to the expected result window, and I'm happy that the email options screen has appeared, and I pass step 3. We check the email options presented to us, each with a single click. enter our preferred email format, tap Control to release, and click the Next button. I verify that the login details screen appears, and I pass step 4. I tap Online Username, Password, Confirm Password. We check the Print Name checkbox and press the Submit button. We confirm that the congratulations screen appears and that our name has been typed onto the card. I'm happy with that, and I pass step 5. We click the Exit button as a final action, and we verify that the application closed and pass step 6. Finally, we click Save Results. WorX and SpiraTest create our new test run, and we're done in record time. So there you have it. Rapid, everything. Seamlessly integrated with SpiraTest, and without crossing the line into the technical world of traditional automation with objects and properties and engines and code. We didn't need to go there. Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, if you have any questions or you'd like to get in touch, please use the chat window for this session.